and the hero's journey we all experience. Let's jump in with our host, Dylan Watkins, as he introduces today's guest.
Welcome, young adventurers. Dylan here. On today's podcast, I have a very special guest. His name is Dane Maxwell, and you'll learn a bit about his journey and mine, how they intertwine together so we could make Arena Rivals. Dane Maxwell is the creator of the foundation, and I would consider him to be the online Yoda of SaaS. He's got an amazing, incredible heart, but also a willingness to get vulnerable with clients. And I originally found him through a friend of mine and started to work with him, and we'll get into the details later, but eventually we got to the point of actually building a multiplayer VR game called Arena Rivals unlike any other. And so I'll talk with him a little about his journey and our journey and how it all came together. And so without any further delay, I'd like to welcome my friend, my buddy, Dane Maxwell.
Yes.
You beautiful man. How you doing today, brother?
I'm excited. Let's talk about this.
Let's talk about this, man. So today we're going to be rapping about Arena Rivals. So just a little bit of a background, and maybe you'd like to say a little bit too, is you've never created a virtual reality application before, have you?
No, definitely not. Very green behind the ears.
And it's all good and wonderful. So maybe say a little bit about your background, and then I can talk about how I connected with you in the first place, and then what was the genesis for this. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Yeah. So what is your background in the entrepreneurial space?
I know how to build businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't come in that way, well, in terms of business, I guess I just built a lot of SaaS products. I learned how to build software companies, and I don't code, right? I hire teams and stuff, and so I took all that experience and I wrote a book, and I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. I could say so many darn things about that.
Yeah. So a mutual friend of ours turned me on to you. His name is CK Lin. And when I was trying to figure out online sales and what to do and how to do it, he goes, you know what? You should listen to this podcast. I think it's really good. And so I went and started listening to your Start From Zero podcast. And what I loved about it, it felt like you were speaking to me. The way you were talking about it is like, you have nothing. You start from zero. You got to figure this thing out. What do? How do you, and then you put your money where your mouth is in terms of you'd bring on people into the podcast where you would actually in real time live coach them, even if they have nothing, if they're not coders or programmers or successful entrepreneurs or anything. You'd give so much value inside those podcasts that I felt inspired to then take a look at the book that you released, which was the Start From Zero book. Is that what it was called?
Yep.
Yeah. When I say read, I always assume Audible because I'm an audio listener. So I just pretty much put anything down through the Audible format. And from there, went a part of that and got towards the book. And then you had a special opportunity where you started doing an actual, private group. How do you say this? A private community online that I ended up joining. Oh, by the way, our buddy CK just joined the thing, so we can see his messages in here. And we can say, what up, CK?
Yeah, dude, CK. I didn't know that CK introduced you. Yeah. So you're part of this. You're part of Arena Rivals.
Yeah. It was beautiful. Actually, I was just talked to him about an hour ago.
You should put the goarenarivals.com URL below us.
Okay, yeah. Let's see here. I will do that. I'll drop that in right now. Do. 3.
Yeah, you guys can go to goarenarivals.com.
There we go. So you can take a look at that. That's we actually have private beta testing right now. So if you're interested in playing a multiplayer game that is focused on curating an uplifting community of highly competitive gamers that want to make friends and build a positive brain, you can actually go to goarenarivals.com and sign up as a private beta. Now, shortly, we're going to be coming out with a public, but if you want to get in before that and help curate and create this, invite you to go sign up to goarenarivals.com. CK included.
So it's not so Dylan, then it's not like a multiplayer competitive game that makes you a more angry person and frustrated.
Yeah, the goal is to do the exact opposite of that, and that's how we both came to it. Is one of the things that I loved when I was working with you, part of the inner circle of starters, is that the combination of both entrepreneur, make money successful, but not from this perspective of I would say kind of dominate, win, crush, make this happen. It was actually you're actually of service to someone. You're actually someone who is how do I be of service to you? How do I connect with you? And how do I exchange value in a way that you feel good and I feel good at the end? And so it's more of a collaborative mutual exchange. And so with that intent and energy coming from it, we decided to really focus on actually building something better. And this was actually, oddly enough, I was in one of the groups where you were talking and you just so happened to get like a Quest headset. And you put on the Quest headset and you're like, man, I really wish that someone would make a multiplayer game. I want to make a multiplayer game the kind that I want. You know, it's fun, it's competitive, but it's also built with like love and compassion. And I had such a deep connection with you. I was like, oh, that's multiplayer VR is kind of what we do. And it was just an odd synergy, and we jumped into that. So with that, what was your perspective of that, of me and you meeting on that and taking the first steps on our journey together?
It seemed very like a divine grace to find you and build this game, because I was thinking about this. So this game is a business built around an idea within my soul or heart. And so there's this game inside my soul or heart that like my fingers want to play and my eyes want to look at and my body and mind wants to experience playing it. Like it burns and aches in me to want to play this particular kind of game. And I grew up badly bullied at like all the critical moments that would matter in your life. Like right as a sense of self is forming, it's like, hey, let's beat you up here. And like, okay, wait, right as the sense of self is recovering again, boom, let's nail you here. And it's like, wait, I'll get to college. And that's when I sense of self, boom, bullied again in college. It's like, dang, man, this has been a gnarly journey for me. And so I was very lonely and depressed growing up. And so I turned to games for comfort. And a lot of times if a game was good, it would really provide a lot of solace for me. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times like a good game would get like destroyed in the sequel, right? The sequel wouldn't be as good. Or sometimes anyway. And I ended up just getting really frustrated. Like most of the games that I would play, like even like the best of the best games, like you could say like Overwatch or Warcraft 3 or World of Warcraft or Quake or any of these really, really popular games, if you actually sit down and honestly ask yourself, we probably enjoy that game at like an 85% capacity. Like there's still like 15% that they're kind of screwing up that they could be making a lot better. Like it could be a lot more enjoyable. And so I was like, why aren't games being made the way that I want to see them made? So that kind of like the impetus for the game. But there are a number of ways to start a business, right? One is you can find a problem and solve it. Mm-hmm. Another is you could become an expert and exchange your expertise. Another is you could hire experts and then you own the experts and publish them, right? Another is that you could just like an accidental business where you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize this is a business. And then here it is, a business is in front of you. And then another model is like a soul karmic level business. You're like, this is your divine purpose to be here. And there's all these different frameworks to start a business from. And Arena Rivals was sort of the next iteration of a business that I wanted to start. That wasn't the other ways I had done. Like I've started businesses where I'm the expert. I've started businesses where I've hired experts. I've started businesses where I found problems. I've started accidental businesses, and I've done soul like a line, like this is part of my journey and purpose to be your kind of business. I've done all of them. The one I hadn't done yet was make a business that I wanted to actually like use the product for, that I actually wanted to enjoy. So like that for myself, because like most of my stuff was like, what's your problem? Will you buy it? Okay, I'll build it for you. Mm-hmm. This one was, I want to make something that I want to use. Mm-hmm. And I've been very successful building all these other businesses, millions and millions of dollars of revenue in these other businesses. but they're very like different, and those millions of dollars are very hard to learn how to make. So, and they were actually less vulnerable than this game that we're making, because this game is very vulnerable, because it's like I'm pulling this game out of like the depths of my heart and soul, where those lonely periods were, and I'm building the game that I craved, that I wish I could have had when I was going through those bullied times in my life. This is the game that I wish existed when I was getting really, really badly bullied. So it's like it's deeply vulnerable. It's a whole different level of building a business. And so most of my businesses, I need to go out and find people to build the product. In fact, all of them really, except for maybe like 2 out of 10, I'm building some form of the product. But most of the time, I'm hiring an expert. So I gotta like go to a job board and write a description, and then try and like filter through like 50 applicants, and then pick like the best one. And it's like, right. And then you're also going to the job board and then like these are people that may not be the best in the world because they're not currently employed. So you got to kind of look through stuff. But it didn't happen with this Arena Rivals. So the root of the game started when I was deeply pissed and really frustrated that every time I got a new VR game, I'd be like, what is this crap? Like, I paid money for this, and I literally 10 minutes in, and I don't want to touch it anymore. And after I bought I think I have 30 games that I bought in VR, but the 30th game, I was like, this is really pissing me off. I want to play a fun game. And so I was so deeply frustrated. I just internally, I said yes. And as I said yes, I felt my brain expand and all this. And ever since I said yes to that, the game has fallen into place in a way that I can only explain as divine grace. You came to me. I didn't post a job ad. I didn't go through 50 people. And then when you came to me, you're like, oh, hey, by the way, I have one of the best coders in the world for multiplayer code. It's a really complicated, really expensive thing to build, but I got this guy that can do it. Oh, by the way, when it comes to design, I've got the guy that's designed art for Star Wars and Lucasfilms who's ready to design your game. And I'm like, are you serious? And you got all this talent that you have, Dylan, over at Reality Smash. And so it's been a trip. So if you're looking for frameworks that you could either recreate or think about in your life, with the folks that are listening or will listen, look for the area where you're just deeply dissatisfied and deeply frustrated, and the problem, and you're not happy. If you're honest with yourself, you're like, you know what, I freaking hate all these television shows. I wish a television show was like this. Or, I hate all these toothpaste, man. I wish a toothpaste was like this. Or I hate all these beard trimmers, or I hate all these VR games, or I freaking hate Facebook. And find something that literally stirs your soul, because I got to tell you, with all the other 5 examples of businesses that I've started, right? I've started a business where I was the expert, where I hired an expert, where I found a problem, an accidental business, one that I felt like was my divine karma at the time. And then this one, which was built on a deep personal frustration. If you find there's nothing, it blows me away to try to articulate, because it's such a new experience. Building this business has been the easiest business that I have ever embarked on. It's also been the most expensive, but it's all good. The money will return.
Yeah, the multiplayer VR is VR games in general are expensive. VR games are even more expensive. Multiplayer VR games is one of the most expensive things you can do. I recently had Jesse Schell on one of the podcasts, who is one of the top VR gamers, VR designers in the world. And I asked him, do you do VR multiplayer? He goes, no, it's too expensive and too difficult. I don't touch that. Right. And it's one of those things it's so hard to do, but we just so happen to dive into an area that we had a refined code base. We had a refined code base that allowed us to leverage that and springboard into what we got. And
what does that mean? You had a refined code base?
So what that means is that very much how you said that, you were looking at something and you hated, you loved VR, but then you hated these elements. You wanted to make something different. for me, when being an entrepreneur, I've been very intuitive to whatever I think I like, then chances are other people will do that. That's what saved me in my last business by going through that. And then with VR, what happened was I backed a project in Kickstarter, and it was called Oculus. And when I put that headset on, my mind was blown. My heart was blown open. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. I played this Zelda game. Someone took all the graphics, and it's probably illegal, but stole it, put it all down. And I played it. I was like, this is what I want to do. And then several years went by. I was building that, creating a community, teaching people, from USC, MIT, all that stuff, how to build and create VR experiences. You kind of lose the little bit of the passion, but then I hit multiplayer, and I had my first multiplayer experience where I went in and I connected with someone. I was like, oh my God, you're a person? Are you really? And it was just, the mind was blown again. Okay, this is what I want to do. I know it's incredibly hard and incredibly difficult, but this is where we're going, because that was my sensation. And one of the things that someone said a long time ago, I don't remember where it came from, things that are hot now are going to be cold later. Things that are hard now are going to be hot later. And knowing that multiplayer VR is where we want to get, we created one of the very first VR multiplayer climbing games called Sweet Escape VR years ago, 2016. Right. And because of that, we've been able to build it and iterate it and go from there. So we had a framework of getting a bunch of people inside a system and being able to have them connect. So instead of starting from ground zero, we had a code base that we were able to leverage, pull that out and say, okay, this is the nuts and bolts of being able to move inside an environment. Now let's actually build a great game around the ability to get people to connect inside this virtual environment. And that's why there's not very many companies that have that refined code base, considering how new it was. And then we just so happen to be in a room with like me, you, and like 10 people, where you're sitting there talking about how you wish there was a multiplayer VR game. And it's funny, you say that I came to you, but it felt like you came to me, because we just showed up in this room and you just started talking about it. I'm like, I don't know how many other people like on the planet could be where I'm at that have what I have, that has what you're looking for. And it seemed like just a perfect like Lego set piece of what it was. And so that was kind of my side of this. Coming there, but I came from the area of being driven and inspired, and every time having the mind blown. But at the same time, that one thing that we know about is that someone said this, that gamers are the new gangs, right? And so like online, if you look at it, people can get bullied online. If you look at the toxicity of a lot of these online highly competitive cultures, they beat people up, they do things, and it's like, it's not the way you necessarily need to do it. There's a better way to do it. We can come with love and compassion, but still be competitive. But that's not really seen in this gaming culture, because it comes from the genesis of like Doom style explosions, build things up, kill things, and there's just a better way to do it. And that's what we kind of set out to do. When you were talking about the 30 or 40 games that you went and bought and tried, were you pissed off by them because of the gameplay or because of the culture around people inside the environment?
Well, both. I mean, the culture I didn't care about, because the game just sucked, in my humble opinion. I mean, you're just like in a game and you're like, the bricks look amazing and like the arrow in your hand is like shimmering, but like the aim and the shooting mechanic of the arrow is just enough to frustrate you. I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay. No, it's totally fair. The part of the thing is, some games, VR has a novelty to it, and you're getting exposed to it. When you try it at first, it's like, oh, this is amazing, but it wears out over time. It's like the trough of disillusionment in any industry, right? You come in, oh my God, food trucks are cool. They'll build up, and then you try a bunch, they dissatisfy you, and then they drop out, right? And that trough of disillusionment is alive and well in the world of virtual reality. You come into the space, right? This is cool. Oh my God, in reality, I'm into it. And that's why 360 video didn't work. You're like, oh, this is it. That's all I can do. All I can do is look around. Oh, that's cool. You never put it on. You never go back into it. Because there's no substance there. It's not deeper. You don't have the value of connecting with people and the value of something that's fun. And one of the things that we've done a lot in our iterations of design and development is follow the fun. And I'd love to talk to you a little bit about your process of design, process of you say that you don't build a lot of things from your deep passion, what you really want, but I've noticed a lot of intuitive design practices that you go in and you experience, and then you collaborate on those talks. Can you talk to me a little bit about how that's set up for you, how you came to be about that kind of that thought process?
Couldn't you ask that differently?
Sure. You intuitively, there's a couple ways that you can build something. You can build out a design to the nth degree and go, this is what we're building no matter what. And you map it all out before you actually build it. Or you can kind of go and experience it and you follow the fun by going through and experiencing it and then reflectively looking inwards to kind of to figure out what should go next by following what you feel. I've noticed a lot of reflective introspection that you do while doing design practices. Is that a honed skill? Is that something that you've learned over time? Is there certain mentors that you've had that have taught you how to be able to tap into what you're experiencing and then inwards to be able to make a design decision?
So, I mean, okay, I appreciate this question. I mean, I'm like, if I could ask like 100 game designers this, I'd be so curious what their answers are. And I guess I am a game designer now with this game. So if anybody were to spend an exorbitant amount of hours in the domain area, they would start to pick up things they like and things they don't like. And when like Arena Rivals is like, I don't know, like my 20th business, right? And like 15 of them are like they're failed. They're no longer exist. You know, I've got my teeth kicked in a lot. And so I still have my teeth, but I also have the experience of it. And in all the businesses that I've done, Arena Rivals is like the most, I have the, like, this laser honed confidence. Like it hones in on exactly what sucks and exactly what's awesome. And I just have this like blistering confidence inside of me. Like, this is what will make a great game. Don't you dare touch it. And like, it's weird. It's like, I don't know. I was like, man, like in my other businesses, it's like, well, what do you think? And what do you think? And what do you think? And like, what's this customer think? But with Arena Rivals, it's like, no, I know exactly what will make a great game and you're not going to touch it. So like, I remember when we were building the game once and I had to hone that confidence because I'm with you and like 4 other great people in VR and we're all in this thing and I've got this idea and you guys were all pushing back on it. And I was like, well, you guys, you're right. I really don't know. And I was like, actually, I do know. And I want it this way. And then you guys all laughed. You're like, okay. And then we had it kind of done that way. And then it was, in my opinion, awesome. And our beta testers are giving us feedback that the game is really, really fun. And I don't need feedback from beta testers. To know that it's fun. Like, it's weird. It's like, I really don't care what you think of this game, but I would like if you kept playing. Like, I need people to play it with me, but at the same time, it's very different. It's a self-affirming act. This game.
What's really interesting about that is there's a couple things. One, with a lot of things in the virtual reality space is people do virtual reality, and the ways that we've got started is out of the sheer joy of creating, experiencing what you've created in VR, and then sharing that creation with other people, hackathons, game jams, all the things that you consider that. That's kind of the essence of what that's about. We're all in this together. We're all experiencing together. We're all feeling the magic and the joy, and you give that gift to other people, and they're like, oh my God. At the same time, it's like, you have to have a vision. You have to have a something that you feel, and it's a creation that you give to people. If you take too many ingredients from people, it kind of blands out the dish. And I know exactly what you're talking about when we were all pushing back. Is you thought of a movement mechanic that has never been done in VR, and something we call thirst person. That was just, we're like, that's not going to work. That's crazy. And being the fact that I've literally tried hundreds and hundreds of VR experiences and just tons of experiences. Like, I've done tons of crazy experimental things. I've never seen anything like this. This isn't going to work. We're all like, this is not going to work, man. And you're like, I want to see it. We're like, all right. Like, we want to push to say, this is our expert opinion. And you're like, I don't care. Like, okay. And then we did it. We're like, it works. It works. And one of the things that's crazy about this is that I've noticed that in a lot of industries, it's never the people that are deep in the industry that really innovate. It's someone that's crazy enough to take something that seemingly probably wouldn't work, but actually pull it off. And that seems to be the case, that you need to kind of come from the outside of an industry and then actually in order to reshape it and remold it. Right. And that was the mechanic. And then after that, we're like, okay, well, let's push back on Dane. But at the same time, he can surprise us because of all of us being VR experts in the space. It was a totally new type of mechanic. But at the same time, I will say this. People might be thinking, Dane's like, I want it this way. Work for me. That wasn't the way you handle it. You handle conflict very, very well inside a collaborative space, that you give people a lot of room and a lot of area to you acknowledge their self-worth and things that I've learned and lessons I've learned from seeing you work with the team on. You could be passionate about something, you could want something a certain way, but at the same time, you give a lot of space for caring and kindness and things like that. I would love to learn just what are your thought processes when you go into a situation where you want something, but other people may not want it. Like how do you communicate that? And what does that look like? Because that right there is the essence of like difficult conversations, and something that is, one of the things we all struggle with.
I probably just treat people like I would want to be treated.
Yeah.
Maybe not, because that you could be like, that's a dumb idea, Dane. Like, okay. Well,
just tell me it's a dumb idea. No, but you're in the patch.
It's pretty simple. Like, it's self-serving on some level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kindness is like the most neurologically sophisticated thing you could do. Like the neurology of kindness. There's scientific data out now that shows that if you're in a kind state, you work better, you're more relaxed, you create better results, you last longer. Like, you watch people like start a course, start a business, start a program, and they burn out in 2 or 3 weeks. It's like every minute they're in there, they're not really kind to themselves. So like, you suck at life, you're never going to get this right, you're just going to fail again, everyone's going to laugh at you. None of that's kind. And without having awareness of that, you'll just bury your own grave. So I'm just kind because it feels good for me.
Mm-hmm.
It feels better than it feels. And so so we have like 7 chakras, or supposedly, right? And our chakras are, from the root all the way up to the head and the crown, these different centers, like, your belly and your heart and throat. And those chakras feel really good depending on what energy you put out into the world and what energy you allow and take in. So you notice how, like, if you're ever angry at someone, or you say something that's really nasty, really check in with yourself. You're like, I don't really feel good after doing that. And you just gave negative energy out, but like the impact's in here on you. So the kindness for me is like, I want to feel good. Mm-hmm. And if I cut someone off or kill someone's idea or crush their spirit or tell them to shut up and take my idea, that I end up feeling worse. So it's just that kindness is really cool. It's also, until kindness is practiced, it's quite vulnerable. It's actually, for most of us, and myself included in the past, it's what was cool was who could come up with the biggest diss, who could be the biggest dick, who could slam someone the hardest, like who has the biggest joke that embarrasses and shames the person the most. And that would get the person that would laugh, and everybody would laugh at the person that was getting dissed, and the person that was doing the dissing would get celebrated. But that's not actually cool. That's actually mean and cruel. So, but if I'm, so I just like to be kind to folks. It makes things a lot better. It wasn't like, it's accumulation of things, right? You listen to someone, you hear their idea, and then you just say no.
Well, part of the sometimes you lose yourself because there's so much passion, especially in game making and things like that. People hold on to an idea, right? And then there's identity that gets attached to that idea. And then, one of the things someone said once is like, idea is never as what was it? An idea is never as important as it is while you're thinking about it, right? You have this super important idea, and it becomes like, this has to go in there. It's my way or the highway. You want to be kind, but you want this in here, and you're battling between your desires and then your desires to be accepted amongst a group, which is, the balance between harmony and truth, right? And that your own inner truth, and that ability to listen to someone else, understand what you want, but then be able to move forward in a pleasant but also kind way. To me, is very admirable. You say it's simple, just be kind, but it's also like, oh, how do you be super healthy? Oh, just diet and exercise, just every single day, just don't eat it. And so, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, but there's a lot more to unpack behind that I think is powerful. And part of the things you're talking about is the ecosystem you step into. It's very difficult in an ecosystem of shit talking, gamer culture per se, right? And then and that whole like, our ancestors, the old school style of chimpanzees versus bonobos. Chimpanzees solve power problems with sex, and bonobos solve sex problems with power. No, switch that. So the chimpanzees destroy and dominate versus bonobos are with love. And so there's two paths you can go down, but it's very hard to step into a whole culture and change that from the inside out. And so you kind of have to create a safe ecosystem, which I think is kind of a bit of what we're doing with Arena Rivals, is creating this kind ecosystem of highly competitive gamers, which comes from, you and you being able to run a community. Because you say that this isn't your only first rodeo of gaming. You've built a lot of products before this, but you've also run a community of people that are trying to build software applications or other types of businesses where it gets very emotional. It gets very intense. And so can you talk to me a little bit about the foundation and kind of the culture you created there and this type of stuff, and then how that's possibly played an influence into Arena Rivals?
Yeah. Hey, Archie, good to have you here, brother. So my heart was hurt a lot growing up, like really, really hurt bad. And I know what it's like for a heart to hurt. And if I like bring someone into a team and then I treat them in some subtle way where they become hurt, that hurts me. Like I don't want to hurt people. Like there's no part of me that wants to hurt people unless we're playing a game.
But that's very powerful, man. Think about that. Why is it in the game we can switch those gears from like, I'm gonna crush you, bro, I'm gonna knock you off. Oh, brother, good game. Right? There's two sides of that character that you have to live in harmony, because you can't just have all sunshines and buttercups and all that stuff, because that's not real. But if you're all the like dominant thing, that's not healthy either. So,
well, I like this. I mean, all aspects of the psyche are welcome if they're grounded and authentic. It's like grounded and authentic. Like a lot of the stuff is not grounded energy, but there is something about. So one of the things I do when we're playing this game is I'm using these fantasy-based battles, because we're playing a competitive shooter where we're taking, but there's no gore, there's no blood. It doesn't feel violent. It feels incredibly fierce and competitive, but it doesn't at any time feel violent. Like we have people that want to show this game to their daughters, if that gives you an idea for the tenderness of the game, yet still being fast paced. And I have a friend of mine who's a professionally paid Quake player, like one of the most violent and gruesome first person shooters online. And he's one of the top ranked players in the world. And he's been inside of Arena Rivals and he thinks this is a great game. He enjoys it. He likes it. So it's this, I just want to say, like, there's few things that I would say this about. I would say, I know how to make a great game. And I would bring that to my deathbed. I would not say I know how to make a great business, even though I've done enough of them and failed at enough of them. I would not say I know how to make a great business with the same degree of confidence that I'd say I know how to make a great game. And I got to tell you how refreshing it is for me to live in such a state of power and confidence with something where there's so little uncertainty. Like I have zero uncertainty with Arena Rivals. It's squelched. It's like what I have in Arena Rivals is like, this is my domain. It is my game. It is this vision. And then I bring other people in that are like, this can be yours too. Your idea is welcome. Let's see what you want to do. But I am watching every idea with like this, like axe, if you will. And it's like, okay, bring it in. Okay, I actually hate that idea as I hear it, but I don't say that. And then I say, can you tell me what you're after with that idea? Mm-hmm. And then they'll explain like what they're after with the idea. And then that'll come up with some other innovation that happens, right? But there's this weird thing, like I don't have this with any other business to the degree that I have it with Arena Rivals. It's like, I know how to make a great game. I'm very confident in that. And I'm fiercely protective of it. With the other businesses, it's like, hey, do you like this? Do you not? And then you mentioned about wanting self-acceptance from the group. Mm-hmm. Well, self-acceptance from the group at the cost of a rejection of yourself is no longer self-acceptance of the group, because you're part of the group and you've now rejected yourself. So there's not self-acceptance. Mm-hmm. So like if you think of self-acceptance, like first here, and then you go group acceptance, like if the group accepts you, it's dangerous territory. Like it, because then if your unconscious bias is like, I really want to be a part of this group, so I'm not going to speak my voice. Now I have that in groups that I'm not that, like if I go into a music group and I'm like, okay, I don't know what actually makes great music. I'm not quite sure, I got chords and I know how to play guitar and sing, but like, I don't know what makes great music. I'm going to shut up and I'm going to listen. But you bring me over into like Arena Rivals and games, and it's like, you ain't coming in. This is my shit. And I know what I'm doing here. But it's because I have like probably 10,000 plus hours gaming. And it's because I've played games. Like one of my favorite games of all time, like I played it religiously, was Splinter Cell on Xbox. And it was two spies versus two mercenaries multiplayer. Mm-hmm. And so it was 2-on-2. Most games in Xbox were 4-on-4. They were very busy. And then you get Splinter Cell that comes out and it's 2 versus 2. 2 spies versus 2 mercenaries. And it was the most fun game I'd ever played in my life. And it was a very thoughtful game with classes, different classes. And like the spies could creep up behind the mercenaries and like grab their neck. And then you could push the white button on the microphone and whisper in their ear, and be like, haha, sucker. And then poof, and then like crack their neck and then run away. And it's like it's very hard because you sneak up behind a mercenary and the little down arrow on the mercenary thing says something's behind you. So a mercenary will turn around. So you got to walk real slow and then poof, get up and grab that. And me and my college roommates, we watched the game. I was like, guys, I got someone's neck. And they'd come over to the mic and I'd hold the white button and they'd be like, you've been exposed. And then I go, poof, and we crack. And it was such a fun game. And the sequel came out and it was even better. And then I loved that even more. And I was like, this is so much fun. And the third sequel came out and they just butchered it. And I was miserable. I was like, oh, you just took the dream of my life in the game and you just completely butchered it. So I had these experiences where it's like, I know what makes really fun, great games. And I'm going to be just really, really protective of that. It's nice. I just encourage anybody that has like, if you have this thing that you're really frustrated about and you're like, no, this is how it should be done. Give yourself the permission to say, no, this is actually how it's supposed to be done. But if you find yourself wanting group acceptance over self-acceptance, that's just a sign that you're probably not that confident about what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, we have this primitive thing deep inside of us. The rejection from the group equals death, right? And so if I get rejected from the group, then I die. Insert that in anything, in a personal relationship, in a group situation, all those things. And so the
Can I say something to this?
Yeah.
Besides BS.
Yeah?
Yes.
So you don't think that we're because it comes from a tribal nature, tribal creatures. You come into the tribe.
Well, if we're talking about like a family and your food and your shelter and stuff, but like if we're talking in like a business context and stuff, like if you don't have yourself, you've got nothing. True,
but your brain doesn't know the difference. I would say if you simulate
in any context, I would agree with this. But Arena Rivals, I don't care. Like it's like I don't need acceptance from anybody for this game.
Sure, but that's a person who's truly free. That right there, you've gotten to a certain level of certainty, which is powerful and liberating. And people get to those states of true freedom. That's why if you look at things like Burning Man, people have their full self, they go completely free and they know they're going to be accepted and they run and their whole heart is open. Inside Arena Rivals, you run with your heart open. right? And you have a certainty in it because of the breadth and depth of playing games and knowing what you love, which is so powerful, so powerful. Anytime I talk to anybody getting into VR, I go, what have you played? What are you passionate about? Show me what you love, right? Because if you don't, then you're like a vegetarian trying to open up a burger truck, right? And so that you have that both of those. There might be three legs of the stool, but the two of the legs is your depth and breadth of gaming and that childhood love, and also your depth and breadth of the entrepreneur world of understanding how businesses tick. Because you've approached this Arena Rivals from a business perspective I don't normally see from people. They just go, VR is cool. How do I get into it? And so bringing those two legs of this three-legged stool all together is something that is, I think, really unique.
Oh, wow. That's cool. I mean, I want to give everybody permission. Like, whoever listens to this is like, allow yourself to be confident where you're actually confident. Mm-hmm. And for that, like this game thing, it's a very new experience. Like, I'm not used to it. Like, I'm starting another business in tandem, and that business, my confidence is like a third. And I'm like, oh God, I don't want to screw this up. How do I get this right? Because I haven't done it 10,000 times like I've done a game. Mm-hmm. So in that I'm more tentative, and I'm just listening, and I'm waiting for stuff to be shown to me. But not in Arena Rivals. It's like, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. And the other business is, it's like, let's try it this way. Let's try this and see if it works. With Arena Rivals, it's like, let's do it this way. Because Arena Rivals is literally like almost every feature from every game I've ever loved my entire life. I'm literally blending the favorite things I've ever experienced in every game. And if I could, like, think about like your three favorite games that you guys have played, like games. Imagine if you combine your three favorite games into one, you'd be like, oh my God, I would drool for that. Well, now imagine me combining like, 10 of my favorite games into one.
I feel it, and it's funny. It's funny that a lot of the, we'll say, young males, or probably females as well, you have these childhood memories that seep into your soul of you remember the good times. If I could clock how many hours of Halo that I played with my friends, and those magic moments when you call the roommate over to check this out, there's this magic it leaves on you. And one of the things that reminds me of Arena Rivals is an old school game from Super Nintendo called Super Metal Warriors. Super Metal Warriors. You got to play. I don't remember that. There was like three different there's, I think, a couple of different character types, like a fast flying one, a big heavy one, and things in between. And you do battle. And when one ship got destroyed, your little tiny guy, the size of a pill, would fly away to hopefully find another ship to go get into. And a lot of Arena Rivals, it reminds me of that magic of being the kid. It's being able to take that nostalgia of what you love and bring it into this future environment that just like reminds you of being a kid. And and that's why I think that a lot of the magic is, and the reason why like we love it and the team loves it and the beta testers love it. There's I think you've taken elements from your favorite games, but also pieces of our games, and put it together in a thing that we want to play.
Yeah. So like, let's just like pattern recognition is like the great skill for success. Like the folks that are the most successful have, generally speaking, the most clear and distinctive patterns. If you look at the experts of any industry, those are the folks that know the patterns. You know it. Like, hey, we got Bitcoin doing this. Let's go to this expert and see what he has to say. And they'll tell you nothing more about the patterns. And you're like, oh, wow. So if you want to start to rise to an expert level of an industry, you just start recognizing patterns. One such pattern for this is, let's say you use a lot of form software like quizzes, input forms, email, lead capture. And you're using like a Wufoo form builder, and you're using Google form builder, and you Google online form builders, and you use SurveyMonkey and all these forms, and you went to all of them and you took your favorite things from each one and blended it into your own unique form builder. That's essentially how we've done Arena Rivals to a certain extent. Is you're taking your favorite things from every place and bringing it in. And a lot of times these fast growing businesses are old problems solved in a new way. And the good example of that is Wufoo forms, WUFOO. And they started back in like 2008, and online forums were older than dirt, but they had a new spin on it. And then within 10 years, they sold that for 50+ million. but they were like, one of the 100th business ideas to that space. It was already really crowded and competitive. And same with this Arena Rivals game in VR. There's plenty of VR games. There's even multiplayer VR shooter games in Arena Rivals. But I'm taking all the favorite things and blending them into one. And it's really nice. It's really nice. I'm curious for the folks that are still listening, if you have an area where you actually would like to really hear us talk about, like, say, talk about this. I want to hear about this topic for anybody that's still listening. I see we got around 10. This thing shows 10 folks watching. But if you guys would take a moment and say, I actually want to hear about this, or like, you're spending your valuable time with us. And so like, what would make that time really well spent?
Yeah, please fill it in there. And wherever you're coming from, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or any of those places, any comments come streaming through to us. So we will see your message. And while we're waiting for that, one thing I'd love to chime in on while we're waiting for this comment to come through is sometimes fear, doubt, uncertainty, things like that do creep in, right? But then I've seen you use different tools, tactics, and ways to actually kind of get clarity and calmness to be able to actually wash away a lot of that stuff, to be able to kind of listen to that inner voice where you listen to your heart and you say, okay, this is what we need to do. One of the things I've seen is, like, say, the hand heart meditation. Oh, how do we get access to your beta version? Well, Michael, just to let you know, the way that you get access is if you look inside the comment threads. If you go to, I'll type this in, goarenarivals.com, you can actually go there and you'll be able to fill out a form, and then we'll put you through the steps to onboard you as a beta tester.
And Michael, thanks for your interest. We're honored to have you. We hope that you feel loved truly and appreciated every moment that you're in that game. So it's an honor to have your interest.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's really important because we are, great question, Judy. Hi, Judy. So one of the intentions very clear in the game is that a player feels loved every minute they're in the game. And now that sounds, well, just most games that you're put in, they will subtly introduce lack-based consciousness into you, right? Games will start off and it'll say, prove your worth, maggots. Or, they'll do these small things that, like, you're like this inferior thing that's unworthy and insignificant and inadequate. And so you now have to, like, prove yourself in the game. And when you come into this game, it's nothing like that at all. And so we're actually subtly programming ways so that when you're done playing the game, you actually feel better than when you started. And that intention is that you feel loved every moment in it. And one of my favorite things that I heard was when my mom saw the game. She said, it's so beautiful and so bright and vibrant. I just want to be a part of that world. And that's what my mom said. And like that's a very clear intention. So this is a game that's built through and through with every fiber with tremendous love. You can feel the love in the game when you come into it. And it's not, the game wasn't built with, all right, what's the hottest selling game? What's the hottest selling topic? What's the hottest selling niche? Okay, it's Fortnite's the most popular game in the world. So how do we game the system? And how do we make a game like Fortnite? We'll change a couple features. Oh, we'll do this thing that Fortnite's not doing. And then we'll go build this. And then we'll launch this game. We're not trying to manipulate a formula to be successful. What we're trying to do is express love through a game. And it's very, very different. And I encourage everybody just like, so Dylan, you asked this head to heart thing, but if you put your hand behind your neck and feel your right hand behind your neck, and then you actually notice, like, soften your hand, you're like, ooh, my hand was actually tense. And then you take your left hand and then you put it on your chest, and then you're like, oh, you know what? My chest is kind of tense. And you soften your hand and chest. And you just take one breath here. And then when you take a breath, notice if your body actually tenses and your hands actually tense on that breath, and you can actually kind of command it to relax a little more. You're like, relax. And so now take another breath while you relax. And you might see, like, there was more tension for me when I breathe, take a breath there. So we'll do one last one. And then we can just get to this root where it's like, man, I really want people to be happy. And that's a really strong desire for people to be happy. So that means when they put a headset on and they enter into the game, the colors are bright and vibrant and they produce happiness. That means when they walk across the dock and see the island, they feel happy. Now, if you look at most VR games, they're in dark settings. They're not bright and vibrant. They're kind of like drab. Most all of them. There are like, maybe 2 out of 10 games that have that bright appeal, but it's really important that people be happy. So we have a designer, and the guy that's designing the game, like we're honored we have him. He's designed the art. He's designed the art for LucasArts and Lucasfilms and Star Wars and things like this. And I tell him, it's like this running joke is like, put your hands here. And then what happens when you put your hand behind your neck and you soften and you breathe, what you're subconsciously saying is connect my brain to my body. And if you connect and you're saying it's safe for my head to connect to my body. As soon as your head connects to your body, you'll probably soften and become more kind, because it's in the body's nature to be kind. And one of the fastest ways to come into your body is to be kind to yourself. Yeah. And that can be kind of difficult. So now you go like this, and then you get your hand on your heart. Then you get what's called heart-brain coherence. And you get everything kind of working in one facility. And then when everything's working in one facility, you can kind of, with a relaxed nature, bring your best work to the world. So I did that with a designer. I was like, do this and then make the design.
It's something that when people get spun up, whatever that might be, they get racing thoughts, or they're in a different space. It's very difficult to have your true voice come out. And I've noticed that as that heart head thing that we've done it as a group, we've done it as a team, done it with individuals. That type of movement actually gets you to hear a voice that speaks softly versus the monkey mind racing all around. And it's a very powerful system or framework for that.
And you don't actually have to like, the voice is there. Mm-hmm. Like it'll just appear. You don't have to like work hard for it. You have to be brave enough to slow down. The voice will be there.
Be willing to listen and
be willing to hear it, eh?
Yeah, and to answer a couple of these questions coming in.
Can I go to Gareth first?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Gareth, hey man, thanks for asking. Sorry to keep you waiting on the question. And guys, please let us know what you want to talk about. Like I want to share as much as possible, so any nuggets of wisdom you can kind of take away and start planting seeds for your own life. So Gareth says, I'm interested in what to do if your passion is not monetizable. In my case, experimenting with robotics plus VR. Considering doing something entirely different for pay and doing that as a passion. That's a darn hard question.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know, man.
So what I've seen just in that area is a lot of people that want to get involved in the virtual reality world. I ran hackathons, game jams for a number of different organizations, companies, universities, and things like that. And what I think is I've noticed, at least in that area, is just showing up and doing work and building a portfolio of content. And it could be from hackathons, it could be your own side projects. You start to get a taste of what those things are. Sometimes a lot of people spin up on one idea and they'll spend years just thinking about it versus actually getting out there and producing it and showing it to people. People get the siloed effect where they don't show people the thing, their ugly baby. And so they think what they have is novel. But if you actually come out with robotics, and we've done hackathons with this type of things where there's been robotics in VR. I've seen death battles where they duke it out, where the two robots go on, and they put on the VR headsets. There's a lot of ways to do this, but you can join content creation events where you see other people using robotics and virtual reality in combinations, and that will inspire you on what works for you. Then you just have to find a place that fits. You know, how is that something that lights you up, but is also of service to other people? And so in the world of robotics and VR, there's a whole bunch of things that you can do around training and automation and other things, but it's really what lights you up. But you need to build up a portfolio of work if you're looking to get some credit in the space, unless you have some way to have resources to be able to supply a long development cycle. Hopefully that answered that, at least from my side on the technical, nerdy, build things up in the world of VR space.
And Gareth, I actually just Googled for the heck of it, how to make money in robotics and VR. And they were like, the top post was 5 ways to make money in the VR space. So it's actually a question that's answerable, by the way. So I would think about that.
Yeah.
How are we going to monetize it? Well, we'll just sell the game outright, and then we'll have in-game purchasable upgrades. Like if you want to like dress up your character, put a cool shield on his back or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of different platforms that you can go, and if you don't know the different platforms, just as a high level, there's the Oculus and then there's Steam. It's the two primary markets. So you can go on the Steam platform, which is a bit easier to get into, and then there's the Oculus Rift, which means it's a VR headset that plugs into a computer, and then there's the Oculus 2 or Oculus Quest 2, that is the Quest Store. Mark Zuckerberg recently came out with an article saying that he believes that the Quest 2 is going to be the first VR headset to go mainstream. Mainstream is an actual definable number of 10 million headsets. He thinks this 10 million headsets need to go out into the marketplace in order for it to be so common that the likelihood that your friend has one is common. And so, looking at if you build and looking to monetize, getting a VR application on a bunch of different platforms, the Quest Store being one of the top ones. I think there's been up to date now 60 games inside the Quest marketplace that's done over $1 million. And so there's huge potential, but much like the Apple Store, how there's a higher standard to get into, there's a higher bar of quality that they want inside there. So charging for games, getting into platforms, seeding that content everywhere. There's a bunch of different strategies like that. And final, go for it.
So, you have one final thought?
One of the places you can put it is there's VR arcades all over the world. Sweet Escape is one of the games that we have. It's in a whole bunch of arcades in North America, I think Europe, South America, and now China.
In-person arcades.
In-person arcades. You go in there with 6 to 8 of your friends, or maybe you're on a date with another person. You have a select games that you can pick from. You go and play that, and then they charge. You charge them by the minute, and so depending on the game, it could be between, let's say, 4 to 8 cents a minute, and that's kind of the standard rate inside the VR arcade space.
Dylan, what's like so Michael was asking for the total cost to build the game. So Michael, it would probably sticker shock you if I told you, and if I actually had known the final amount, I probably wouldn't have done it. Because I was like, I'll spend 60 grand to build it. And Dylan was very generous, and we worked a deal out where that would be 3 months to build a game. And I was like, I'm only doing 20 grand a month. I'm stopping at 60,000. And then once it got to 60,000, I saw this game and I saw the potential, and I was like, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. So by the time that we release it, it'll be somewhere between 200 and 250,000 invested in the game. Mm. And that's a serious amount of cash for me to invest, in addition to like all my other businesses and things like that. But it's like every month that I pay the bill, I feel like I'm saying yes to a dream, and it feels amazing.
Yeah.
It feels incredible.
And what's interesting on that is that because we've had the code base and we've been developing it for years, I mean, we've done hundreds of thousands of dollars in our own development time, and to be able to build out a code base to leverage that. I think another game, like if you look at like Population 1, I think it took 3 years and $6 million to build out that multiplayer game. And so,
we'll be like 6 to 7 months and under 300 grand.
Yeah. So that's the leveraging on being able to have the code base, and also just lean and mean, because there's once you hit the 10 million mark is when AAA studios, big companies, are going to start throwing top dollars at it. I think it was
once you get to 10 million and spend. What do you mean?
10 million headsets. 10 million headsets means that there's an ecosystem large enough that the big gamers, like the AAA development studios, will be like, oh, that's valuable enough for me to spend $20 million on a game to bring it into the things. Like Valve made Half-Life Alyx. I think it was $20 million. I think it was. Now, they did do $60 million total, which was a blockbuster hit and by far one of the biggest games out there. And it's a lot of demand for that, being Half-Life 3. And
don't, like, with this amount, Michael, like, one of the gifts, it's like everything I've done in my life has prepared me for this moment. So I've got, 20 businesses in, lots of failures, millions of dollars made, millions of dollars spent, and pretty substantial income for myself for the businesses that I worked very, very hard to set up. And so like I'm at the apex, I've got all momentum is really important. I've got all this momentum. So it's like I worked hard. I learned software. I'm not writing software, owning software. And I did all this and I got to this apex point. And then I got to use all these skills to pour into a VR game. It was like all these conspiring events leading into making this game. And I had all this momentum. So this is not where I would start. This is 15 years in the making. And since I understand software, I understand how to communicate features, and I understand very strategically. I've been very, very, very precise in my mind with how I wanted to make this game, so that it was highly efficient to build. I didn't build things that would have complex trees that would take hours and months of coding. I put together like the simplest version of the most fun game I could imagine. And that was very intentional. And that's a lot of the reason why the cost is lowest, because I have an acumen for what would be, appropriate to budget wise and stuff. And that's something that I haven't really said out loud before, I guess. And there's something else to consider with this is, as I'm talking out loud, I'm realizing that making games is very easy for me. And it's worth me, like I'm reading Steve Jobs' book right now. We can't wait to have you, Michael. Where I'm reading Steve Jobs' biography right now. And that guy was fearlessly himself. And he was also unapologetic about it. And he was also fiercely confident in what he wanted. Like he knew, he's like, this. You will do this. It will look like this. Don't you dare do it that way. That is garbage and crap. Stop it. Do this. And Steve was very precise with that. And the land where I happen to be precise is in games. Now, the reason I never made a game before is because I thought, I had a belief that it would take millions and millions of dollars. And I also didn't see a need to make a game because I thought most of the games that are out there I could play, that I enjoyed the games I was playing. But then as I aged and matured and stuff, I realized the games weren't satisfying the need I had anymore. And then industry timing is really important to consider. So we're at the beginning stages of an industry for VR. And in the beginning stages is when the little independent guys have a shot.
Yep.
And so this is the timing is literally everything is just about divinely timed and perfect for this. Because in the first, say, I don't know what the years would be like, say 2 to 7 years of an industry, the independent players have a shot. And then, in the next 15 years, all the big players come in and just crush the independents. Now, you could go into an industry as an independent, like say you're a local internet service provider. When the internet first came out, there were all these little ISPs going out everywhere, and you'd buy internet service provider from one of 20 guys in your city. Then Mediacom comes, Comcast comes, and they just crush all these guys. And you get all these people that are bitter, like, oh, this is unfair to the man. This is nature in action. And so right now we have a chance as an independent to establish ourselves as a player in the industry. So the timing is really critical for something like this. I'm well aware of that. So what we're doing is we're building this game as quickly as we can. As soon as we make enough money, we'll probably double the team size. We'll build out the game so that by the time the big players come in, we'll have such an established and baller game that we'll be able to play and compete with those guys. And that's all in my head as well.
100%. And, I've seen a lot of people, you can make, if you look at Beat Saber, it's not a complicated game, but it's something that you can make at a hackathon or something like that. But they nailed the core loop very, very well of something that people love, rhythm, and then put you into that flow state that got you there. So one of the things I'd encourage people, especially if you don't have a large budget, something that you'd be able to make, you've made several successful businesses and all those other things, you can go, you can do virtual hackathons or other types of events where you get together with a team and you produce a core loop, some sort of micro experience that is pleasurable. And then there's stages of the evolution of a virtual reality product. One being, the ideation. The other one being a little hackathon weekend prototype that we've done, us and Dane, we built that little prototype, and then you got to scale that out to actually being functional to get to closed beta, then public, and then full release. And so there's these tranches that you kind of have to get through, and you need resources, you need enthusiasm, you need discipline. There's a lot of things that takes along those steps. But I've seen people in hackathons build an interesting concept and then be able to show the traction in that, and then be able to get the funding or the resources out the door. But it's about leveraging your resources as you work up the thing to full release. And we just so happen to be in an ecosystem right now. Stan was talking about, if this was 5 years ago, there was no marketplace. When I was building those things back in the day, we were just building things to build things, and we'd show them to our friends. But we're at that point where the ecosystem just became around. Everything's just starting to grow, and it's, can we get into the market and be able to claim a space that is kind of wholly our own? And if you can build a fan base, an ecosystem, people around this shared joy, then that thing will self-perpetuate. That's the thing about the games is, people do it because it's fun and they want to. And what a lot of people do in like League of Legends and other types of games is they love the game, but they hate the culture. And so they have all these survival patterns around that. And that's something that we try to get away from and try to build into that. So hopefully that helps with some insights on how to get
very practically speaking, we're going to use the game to help you build a positive brain.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means with that focus is we're going to have something called the creator of champions in the game. So you go and you talk to this little bot. It's the creator of champions, and you click and you talk on him. He says, "Hey, what would you like to become a champion in?" And you can say self-kindness, self-responsibility, self-discipline. And so you click self-kindness, and it'll begin by telling you some of the science of kindness and how important it is for your brain. And then when you select that, then you'll go through the game. And every time you load into a new world, you'll be taken into like a 10-second loading cocoon with a very powerful fact-based quote on kindness that you contemplate. And you're like, oh my gosh. And then every time you finish a game, you'll be taken into a self-kindness prompt that'll prompt you to have a kind thought about that game. And then you'll start subtly programming yourself kindness while you're playing a game. Once you get the self-kindness track done and you've got that achieved and you're a champion at that, then you could choose self-responsibility. Then you could choose self-discipline. So you could actually install the traits of a very positive character traits while you're playing the game. It's a very specific feature that Dylan and I are extremely passionate about designing. And Dylan's done a lot of research, and Dylan's read like academic collegiate level reports on like the emotional impacts of games. And so imagine joining a game where you actually develop willpower in the game. So like you come into the game, and as soon as you come in, it says, "Hey, welcome to Arena Rivals. How long would you like to play today?" And you're like, "You know what? I want to play for 90 minutes. Boom. You said, "All right, the timer's starting. When 90 minutes is up, we'll let you know." And you have 5 minutes to leave within that 90-minute window to get a reward of a crystal that you can then use to buy something cool with. And then as that 90-minute window comes up and they're in the heat of gaming and they want to go another 2 hours, we'll put up a quote about how willpower is developed by making decisions when things are difficult. And if they make the difficult decision to leave that game right now at that time, they'll actually build their willpower in this game and out of the game, and they'll get rewarded for it. So we're actually going to use games to improve the quality of someone's life, so that we have, wives of husbands and parents of children that are like, "I'd really like it if you went and played that game."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the things that you're touching on really powerful is that, and I think a lot of gamers all know this, is that especially multiplayer online games, it makes you feel a lot. You feel amazing and you feel terrible. And ultimately Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, he said really the power of man is it's the response to stimuli. It's however you choose to respond to the stimuli in your life determines, what the quality of life it is that you have. And in these games, you can feel like a champion, right? But you can also get crushed by other people. But in those feeling moments, how do you decide to take action, right? Do you rage quit? Do you shout at the person? Do you belittle them? Do you make them feel terrible so that you can feel better? Or do you choose a better path? And is this something that, instead of you innately trying to do it and hold it in your own, we want to create a culture, an ecosystem inside there to actually inspire you along a better path versus actually, just trying to, whip through on your own side. So have a culture built into it, essentially.
That's so wonderful. I was thinking, as you go to the Creator of Champions, He says, what would you like to become a champion? And you could actually pick positivity. And, for folks like me who have had bullied history, sometimes depression can fall onto my brain, right? From the anger that I feel towards these folks for hurting me that I haven't processed yet. And that anger turns into, say, depression, and I haven't processed it yet. So it might come out as depression. Well, one of the fastest ways I've found to actually heal myself and see more aspects of myself is when my brain's in a positive state. I can actually look at trauma more clearly. So imagine, and we're not trying to heal people's trauma in this game or anything, that's quite a risk. But just for my self-example, say I struggle with positive thinking. So you go and you select positive thinking as the thing you want to become a champion in. And then it really gently helps retrain your brain over time into becoming a positive one. So now, let's say you lose a game, but you've selected the positive thing that you're becoming a champion at. It says, even though you lost the game, can you name one good thing you did? And the person's like, oh, actually, I did that one thing pretty well. And now in a loss, in a failure, they're trained to see the positive. So say they do that enough times, and then they go out into the world and they go to a job interview. And at that job interview, they just get slammed and rejected. And they're on their way home, and like say their mom calls, and they're like, well, I didn't get the job interview, but I felt like I did this one thing really well in it. And they're able to bring this positivity. And when someone is able to see the positive component in a negative situation, it's uplifting for the entire planet. You got songs like What a Wonderful World, right? And how positive that is, or Happy from that Despicable Me movie, might seem crazy what I'm about to say, da, 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 sunshine, she's here to stay, or whatever it is, right? So like that song's huge. It's, these happy, positive things they mean so much to us. And as a collective society, it seems to me, myself and others, we seem to be scared of positivity. Like it can be frightening. It's like, what are you doing? It's a risk. Don't you know your heart opens when you're positive? Don't you know when you're vulnerable, you're going to be attacked? Like there's these things that happen very quickly on the unconscious, and we can gently train people into a positive state of mind. But like the guy that was saying What a Wonderful World, he actually had people come to him and say, he's like, yeah, what do you mean it's such a wonderful world? All these wars, all this, whatever, bro. So some wonderful world this is. And, how do you respond to that? Well, if you're triggered into the same level of consciousness that spoke to you and you're in that negative state, you're going to have to try to like wrestle and maneuver. And he's like, well, it seems to me the world's actually pretty wonderful. It's just actually the people in it that are causing the problems. And they're like, oh, and that kind of stuff, that means a lot. So that's kind of the heart of the game. You drop into the game, you pick your class, soldier, hunter, priest. You're playing with your friends. You're building a positive mind. You're becoming a champion in these components. You're meeting new people and having fun and making friends. And you're playing a game where, we're going to be investing a portion of our profits back into helping gamers that are struggling with mental illnesses. We're going to be investing quite a substantial amount of our profit into redeveloping and making the game better and adding new features. Somebody asked me, they're like, so what's your end game with the game? Is it to make money? I said, no, it's to give. It's to give more to gamers. It's to give to the folks with mental illness. And sure, I'll take out of a self-love act, I will receive the fruits of what I've built and what we have built. We'll all receive the fruits of it. And yeah.
Do you feel like there's when you're talking about who you're serving, I mean, are you imagining when you're building this like a young Dane out there who's struggling for connection and self-acceptance, or ultimately who is this for? Like in terms of you're looking at this, like in your mind of like, who's this for and what do you want the outcome to be for them?
Well, it's cheeky, but it's like, first you really need to have it's someone who really has a thirst for competitive, fast-paced action. Mm-hmm. It's not someone who wants to go on a single player experience and enjoy. It's for someone that wants to come in and get tested. Their skill against another human and they must win. So it's someone that has that kind of acumen for a game. And then within that, It's someone who wants to have a positive experience throughout and not necessarily leave frustrated at the end of it. So those would be kind of like the two. But I have a particular proclivity for like the hardcore gamers that just love to play these competitive shooters, and they're questing for competition, and they're thirsting for this. It's like it's in their genetics. Like they're like, I must compete.
There is a weird
competition. It's a game of competition. It's not a game of a single player adventure.
Yeah. Well, the difference between competition and domination, right? The ability to say, look, I want to play because I want to challenge myself. I like the growth. I like the leveling up. I like the camaraderie. There's something about high-fiving your friends when they do a great move, and when someone else gets you, like, oh, great job. There's that joy in that competition. And at the same time, there is also so much value in if you get destroyed, being able to come from a place of, oh, well, that was a powerful learning lesson, instead of you cheated, then you rage quit, or, like my brothers would do, they'd turn off the Nintendo halfway through playing it because I almost beat them at the wrestling game, that kind of stuff. And I think there's a way to actually have the competition and kindness at the same time. So do you, like, with this, as you envision this out, and did you see this as expanding out into like beyond just a competition ecosystem, or is it more than a game to you, or is it just a game that's really fun that teaches you life lessons? What is it to you?
Oh my goodness. It's kind of a lifestyle, really. It's like you say, I'm going to go play Arena Rivals, and you're committing to a lifestyle. You're committing to a lifestyle of greatness. You're committed, like, you use the game and you use these fantasy battles to reflect on parts of your character that don't get revealed in the real world, that get revealed in VR. So, like, are you like more sarcastic in VR? Do you get angry easy? Well, if you get angry easy in VR, you get angry easy in all parts of your life. So, like, to use a game to, like, when I'm playing the game, I will at times reflect and like say, how am I showing up in this game, and what does that show about a part of my character that I could reveal to grow in my life? So Arena Rivals is really about folks that are committed to a lifestyle of greatness. And greatness isn't like, the cover of a magazine. Greatness is true mastery over self. That's the kind of greatness I'm talking about. So when you say yes to Arena Rivals, you're saying yes to mastery of self, but you're also saying yes to having a real damn good time.
Yeah.
Like this, it's a fun game first. It's very satisfying. You go in with a soldier and you're aiming, and your right arm is connected to the whole camera. So you get immersed in, and then you take your right arm and you shoot a rocket at a character, and he pops up in the air. And then while the guy's in the air, you switch over to your shotgun, and you're going up to him, boom, and you shotgun him while he's in the air, and you're connected to this whole thing, and they run away, and you toss a grenade in the direction he's running, and then boom, they explode. And this whole time you're getting hit and attacked. So you got a healer behind you, and the healer's shooting and shielding and protecting you while you're going in, and throwing a grenade on the ground that's got an area of effect heal that you can run and stay in while you're in the enemy. So, like, you've got the soldier with this giant shield that can go whoosh, and then the healer and the hunter can come behind the guy in the shield, and you can feel this connection and feel this camaraderie and feel that you have a place, and every person is critical in that place. And every class is so critically designed that each class can actually kill each player if they play it correctly.
Yeah.
And so it's just this joy of a game where you get to feel this sense of connection. And it's 1v1 and 2v2 and 3v3 battles, because those are the games that are small enough where you can feel your impact and you can feel that you matter in the game. You get into 4v4 games and even 5v5 games, it gets kind of hard to feel like you matter in that game.
There's that trifecta fit, and there's just a human thing of having dynamic or different skill sets and working collaboratively, but at the same time, it is a very well balanced game of being able to say that any one player technically could take out the other players. It relies on the skills of the team, and if you work better as a team, it's much more powerful than a bunch of solo people running off in their own directions. Often I know when we start to struggle, we stop communicating, we stop talking. Everyone just runs off in their own directions and try to do their own thing. But the teams that can talk the best, that can communicate the best, that understand the skills and strengths. You know, if the healer gets stunned, the soldier jumps in front with the shield and he's like, "I got you, bro!" And then the hunter leaps over the top and hits him with a tree. He's like, "I got you!" And then everyone starts jumping on top of each other, and it's that collaborative watching out for the fellow person while reacting to them and almost working as a synergistic unit that feels so good in the game. And it's very, very rewarding on a deeply primal, primitive, tribal level. Yeah. So
nice. Very, very good, Dylan. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I know we're getting here towards the end of all of this. What other?
Give me 1 sec. You talk to the group. I'll be right back. Okay. It's gonna go. Okay. I'm gonna go pee outside. Everybody, okay. Too much information, but that's why I'm leaving.
Yeah. See, he's draining all of his knowledge. He took it all in, and now he's just letting all those toxins flow out of him right now. But this is Dane. This is the game. This is Arena Rivals. I've been building virtual reality multi-user for a number of years now, and this is one of the most fun, powerful, connected games that we have ever built and or have experienced, truly. And it's one of these things that I think the average beta testing play period is about 2 hours. So people go in and they'll play until the headsets die. And to me, looking at gameplay and looking at people, the timeline it takes for people to play and keep going, it's a really incredible thing. And also, while Dane is out answering the call to nature, feel free to type in any questions that you have, any final thoughts. Are there any dying or any burning questions that you really want us to answer as we go through this or as we start to wrap this up? Because we want to make sure that this is answered for you. And at the same to go to goarenarivals.com if you want to sign up to be beta tester. Hey, Dane, how was that? You feel better?
Yeah, I feel good.
Yeah? Lighter on your feet? I asked the people if they want to ask anything else, any last questions, feel free to type it in. But I would love to kind of give you the stage and say, you know, what's any final messages? What's any words? What are things that you want to communicate to people, either about this game or just life in general?
Well, some ideas you got to work really hard at, right? They take a lot of gusto, and other ideas kind of feed themselves. And then you have somewhere in between. Arena Rivals is a game where I haven't had to exert my force of will for it to happen. It's been a self-creation thing. It's been created on its own. So it's also been very slow for my standard of like, I'm not used to the pace. So Arena Rivals has actually helped me, building this game has actually helped me develop a much deeper form of patience. Because, you know, it'd be like Tuesday and I don't get to play till Friday. And I'm like, oh, there's a game be done. And I'll breathe and I'll say, this is what patience is. This is the actual experience of patience. And if I'm impatient, that's going to stress the team out. That's not a happy team, ultimately, right? They're like, crap, we don't want to fail this person. They're stressed. They're setting these restraints on us. So this is a game where I have had to learn surrender and let the game get built for me. It builds itself. The game really builds itself. And patience and being alert enough to know when I'm being supported by like a higher power or a higher energetic current that wants this game to exist. My favorite spiritual mentor said that every idea that exists in this physical plane existed in the spiritual plane first. It already existed, and we're bringing things through from the spiritual plane into this. And some ideas really, really, really get a lot of support to get built, and other ideas are just so narcissistically driven by the ego that you're fighting reality the whole time. And you can make those work, but this is one of those games where if you get the gift to connect to something that you get to bring through from the spiritual into the physical, and learn patience. Like, they're very little thing. There's like just listen to these facts. Dylan came to me. I didn't have to find him. The designer for the game is was one of the lead designers for Star Wars and Lucasfilms and the Clone Wars. He's a killer designer. He has also 10,000 hours at video production and editing, so he can make really great game trailers. Just so happens. The programmer is like the lead developer on projects where network code issues are broken, and he's like the guy that they bring in when multiplayer code breaks. And the developer quality to be able to come in and fix broken code is a significantly higher skill than someone who can just code from scratch. And we have this game producer who's organizing everything, who's actually deeply passionate about all the same games that I am and understands how to make a great game. Then you have Dylan, who's literally driven and committed by excellence itself, has all these high architectural standards for the game, multiplayer code base already created in the game. Like all this stuff has just been given to me to build this. And because I believe that the higher realm really wants to see this game exist. And this is the kind of stuff, like when I start a business, I enroll every force in my favor. I enroll God, I enroll angels, I enroll nature, I enroll my emotions, my heart, my spirit, my sexual energy, I enroll my mental energy, I enroll my higher self energy, I enroll all of nature conspires in my favor because I ask for help on all planes. And so I get all this amazing things happening. Sometimes. Other times, nature's like, we don't need this. We don't want this. You can feel the friction, right? And so there's that happens alone, okay? Then 3 weeks in, Oculus themselves contacts Dylan and says, hey, we have this START program where we really help developers make successful games on our platform, and it gives you a serious edge and advantage to getting onto our platform. Would you like to be a part of our START program? And that gets gifted to us as we're doing this. And then now we have like some of the top designers and top people at Oculus coming to check out the game. And there's hundreds of developers all clamoring for that attention, and they're coming to us. And it's easy because I don't know. That's the thing. It's like I don't I teach a lot. Like we don't really get to decide what works.
Yeah, it's funny they say, what is it? Luck is made out of hard work. I mean, I've been on this VR path for a number of years, right? And it's taken a long time to kind of get to where we are. You've been on the entrepreneur path for a number of years, but then all the things kind of came together at that moment where all of a sudden this door opened up for the both of us that we didn't know, we weren't expecting. It was just like, this is what you need to do. And very rarely do you get those opportunities, at least from my perspective, to step through a door that was this clear, this apparent, and all of the pieces come together. That's why we looked at our team, we looked at you, and we were all looking at these things. We're like, oh my God, this is everything we need to make something that is going to be meaningful to us, and something that is going to be bigger than each one of us put together. And it's just so much gratitude and appreciation for the universe and all of this to come together to allow us to do this. And people that want to get on this path, you can do it. There is a whole wide world of opportunity out there. There's a whole wide, virtual reality is the internet with the face, and there's someone on the internet that's going to make $1 billion tomorrow that's going to figure it out, right? And you can do it too. It's just getting congruent with your heart and then being brave enough to show up, try, fail again and again and again. Because I've made things that are terrible, and that's a whole other podcast in the story. And you do that, and you learn, and you grow, and you get your skills up, and then when you start to live from the place of what you love and what drives you and excites you, and the critical piece, you are of service to the other person. Because Dane, you're talking about a situation of, this is my game. At the same time, you are hyper protective of people coming in. You mother hen them in a way that's loving and caring and like, hey, I want to protect this. So finding something that is of importance to you, that makes you a responsible character for other people, is a very powerful, and ultimately what entrepreneurship and these types of games are, is being of service to other people. And I think it's very, very powerful.
I think that's why I'm protective of the game. Mm-hmm. It's not like because it needs to be. It's partly because it needs to be my idea, and it's it's like there's something in me that's getting healed by bringing the depths of my soul out into a game. And that's important for my healing. And so like I'm doing this to heal a part of my self-image, is that's nerdy, lonely gamer. And that gets healed every time someone comes into the game and plays and we have a good time together. It's like, wow, I brought the depths of my being out into the world in this game and we're all enjoying it. That's very healing for me. You know, it's very healing for my mom to say, this looks like a very bright and vibrant world that you've built. When the bright and vibrant world is something that I've been seeing in my soul for a while. It's like very affirming. It's very healing for me to do. But on the other hand, the protection for how the game needs to go is because I want people to feel loved in that game. And that's, I don't know if gamers are like game developers are thinking about that. You know, they're like, let's make a game people play. Let's make a game.
I don't know if they're given permission. You know, I think that's one of the challenges is that in life, especially with men, you get two feelings. You get angry and you get good. Like that's it, you know, or I'm turned on. Like that's your range that you're quote unquote allowed to feel in the areas and in the gamer space. You know, the reason why there's some of this toxicity is that people don't get a chance to feel their emotions. They don't get to feel love. It's hard for a lot of guys in this area to look at them. So I love you, you know, if it's not their girlfriend, not their significant other, but we all crave it, but we're not given permission in a lot of this culture to feel it and express it. And one of the things that's beautiful about this game is it creates that space to love and to be loved, to be able to look at someone and say, I love you and I care about you and I'm here for you. I'm going to support you. And if you fail, it's okay, man. You might suck right now and I love you. Let's do this. And that's something I don't think exists and why it feels so good for us to be in this game, right? And do you feel that by creating the love for the people, it's healing because it allows you to love yourself more deeply?
Probably.
Maybe. Okay.
I want people to feel loved.
Yeah.
In a world where lack consciousness is very rampant, gaming.
Yeah. The lack of consciousness and also the I feel better by shitting on you, right? That right there is just one of the most toxic and destructive, and it just closes hearts because then you just start to like armor up. Do you know the Joseph Campbell Golden Buddha story? Have you heard of that story?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say it for anybody that's listening. I haven't heard of it, but there's a story about like a monk village, and in the monk village, there's this golden statue, this golden Buddha, right? And then one day, one of the monks comes running up. They're like, the Mongols are coming. The Mongols are coming. Here they come. Watch out. And then they're like, oh, we got to flee the village. And what happened was, they're like, okay, we got to leave, but there's this giant golden statue. If we leave, the Mongols come. They're going to take the golden statue. We can't have that. So what do? It's a conundrum. They're like, okay, I got an idea. What if we cover up the thing and make it not look golden, but look like something ordinary so they don't want to take it? So like, okay, so they rub a bunch of mud and dirt and sticks and trees, and they make it look like an old, dirty Buddha statue, and they run away. So sure enough, the Mongols come. They look around, they see an old, dirty statue, no mind, and they take off. Years later, the monks come back to the village, right? But they completely forget about the statue until one day a little monk child bumps up against the statue, and a piece flakes off on the hand, and he sees that the hand is golden. And so he runs up to all the other monks and goes, the Buddha's golden, the Buddha's golden, the Buddha's golden. And then come to find out, they're like, oh my God, they come and they tear it all off and they see it there. In fact, the Buddha is golden. And essentially what that's a metaphor about is inside every one of us, we had an inner child, a bright and shiny inner child, someone that seeks to be loved, to be connected with, to play with, to express their emotions, to overall just to be in their true self and their true beauty, to shine their light and to be accepted for who they are. But because of the fears and the doubts and the threats and the trauma and the wounds from life, we cover ourselves up with this fake armor to protect ourselves, seeking that we will be so unworthy that we'll just go by unnoticed. And the point of life, and I think a lot of what this game is removing that armor that does not serve you to let your own inner light shine, your own inner light of of kind competition, of love, of connection, of camaraderie, of friendship. And those are all the things that we seek, but we don't give ourselves permission to feel out of the fear of the trauma of whatever happened to us as a child. Yeah?
Hell yeah.
So that's most of the time we got. Dane, is there, I know I keep going on here, but I love talking with you, and I'm like, one more thing. Is there anything else that inspired you to say before we wrap this up and let people know how they get a hold of you, or anything else you're up to?
I just want them to check out the game, see what they think.
Yeah.
Go arenarivals.com is just a landing page for the beta now, but around the 1st of March, if you're listening to this after that, we'll have a trailer that you can watch. That would be it. I just hope they've learned something, and I don't usually do these podcasts where it's like, this is why we're great, and this is what we're doing, and we're loving people, and so we're so awesome, and I know how to make a great game. And what I hope you take from that is, how could you speak similarly, and how could you apply love to your business? And you're like, you know what, am I actually loving people with this first email? No, I'm actually trying to take and get from that email I'm sending. You know, people know when they're feeling loved, and they spend money pretty heavily where they feel that deep appreciation.
Yeah, you can feel love for sure. That's beautiful, man. Well, Dane, I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you coming out here and sharing this. And yeah, typically we don't talk about this on the thing, but it's one of the things that it is something that's meaningful, and it's something that we're proud of and inspired to create. So, thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your love. I love you, brother. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
And I will see you inside Arena Rivals.
Peace.
Peace, brother.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes of Reality podcast. Check out Heroes of Reality.com for more episodes. While you're there, you can also take the Heroes quiz to find out what kind of hero you are. Or, if you have a great story and want to be on the podcast, tell us why your hero's journey will inspire others. Thank you for listening.